Next on News Worth Knowing, over 100 million rand was stolen from Postbank, the bank that distributes SASSA social grants, in an elaborate heist from a criminal syndicate that pulled off 5 separate steals from 2021 to 2022. And the story of how they stole all of this social grant funding is wild enough to be a thriller movie starring Liam Neeson. And we'd call it Taken for Granted. Do you get it? It's about grants.
Oh, Dan, man.
No, they liked it. Did we like my dad joke? Are we Shut up, bankers. I'll fire you. Okay, so the Postbank heist. Postbank manages grant recipient accounts for SASSA and distributes money. And this heist, it was an inside job. Over months, Postbank staff would falsely inflate the value on specific SASSA accounts to increase cash balances on those accounts. Then they deleted the logs that showed the changes to the accounts. And after that, they reset the password pins on the accounts. Hundreds of cloned SASSA cards were then issued to runners who went from ATM to ATM withdrawing money from the accounts. We don't know how many Postbank workers were involved, and we don't know how many runners were involved either, although there have to have been many, because we do know that nearly 20,000 withdrawals took place at 1,709 ATMs across South Africa. And in the end, 109 million rand was stolen from SASSA grant funding at Postbank. And frankly, I wish I could call on Liam Neeson to sort this out. Because these guys, this syndicate, it's serious, smart, and organized. And they must be dangerous too, because they managed to make all of these runners actually hand over the money that they withdrew. This was life-changing amounts of money. But no runners made a run for it with the cash. Clearly, this syndicate is not to be fuffed with. Next on News Worth Knowing, a Pretoria family has been torn apart by a church pastor. Tar and Susanne Elof have gone to court to try and stop their 2 sons, Jaco and Johan, from giving all of the family's wealth to Pastor Jandre Stradom's church, Christ in Me International Collective. There's a lot going on here, but basically, the Elofs joined the church some years ago, and then the parents left, but the sons drank the Kool-Aid like a Boer drinks brandy and Coke. They drank all of it, fast. The Elof parents hold the family's wealth in a trust. And long ago, they made their own sons co-beneficiaries, which gave their sons access to the family fortune. The Elofs had a lot of money because of many different successful business ventures, and the parents say that all the money in the trust was made by them, and that the sons have never started businesses or donated any property, assets, or money to the trust. But now, the sons have given millions and millions of rands to the Christ in Me church, guys, because Pastor Jandre Stradom told them to. He told the sons that it was God's will to further God's project on earth. As co-beneficiaries of the trust, they can do this whether their parents want them to or not. Pretty bad, right? So now I'm going to play a game called Can It Get Worse? I'm going to tell you another thing about this story, and if you here tonight think it can get worse, you need to shout out for me, how much worse? Have you guys got it? Yeah. Got it. Okay, I'm going to try. Okay, one Elof brother convinced his parents to sell the family's 7 million rand holiday home so he could, in his words, use the money to pay off his tax debt, otherwise he would go to jail. But he never gave that money to SARS. The sons never provided proof that SARS got the money. They told their parents it was church business now. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
Well, the brothers also transferred the family's battery company and their quarry to the church. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
That quarry has now got a mining license and is being rented out to another church-linked company for just 5,000 rand a month. 5,000 rand to mine a quarry. 5,000 rand can't get you to rent a parking space in Cape Town right now. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
The pastor told one of the Elof sons that he must transfer the family's farm to another member of the church because God told him that the Elof son is not a farmer. So that's what happened. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
The pastor allegedly tells church congregants to marry each other, and they do it. A cousin and the parents of the Elof sons says that Pastor Stradom instructed one of the Elof brothers to marry the pastor's ex-wife. And then he did. The pastor said that he had received a word from God that they must marry. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
The direct quote from the Elof cousin is, I attended the church once and had to listen to Gendre for 3 hours proclaiming that he was personally sent by God and therefore had the right to control your life. He decides that everything that happens in his members' lives, you have to give him all your money and all your possessions, and he decides whom you may marry. He has financially ruined many members of his church. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
Pastor Stratum's church did lose 18 million rand in a Ponzi scheme in 2017. And at the same time, Pastor Stratum has continued to make masses of money from the church. Can it get worse?
How much worse?
It probably can get worse. But I don't have any more time to tell you about the episode about this church on Showmax's series The Illuminated, or the Carte Blanche episode on Pastor Stratum from a few years ago. But the bigger point of this story is how terrifying it is that charismatic people can exploit religion to control others and take advantage of them. These startup churches, like Pastor Mboro's also, they don't answer to any religious body. There are very few laws to regulate them. And in the case of the Elofs, they're trying to stop their sons from handing over the rest of the family's money, but there's not much that they can do because they gave their sons significant power as co-beneficiaries of the trust. And from the sons' perspective, there's nothing wrong here. They're simply doing God's word and strengthening his kingdom on earth, or whatever Gendre said. And yet, in their experience, the word and will of God comes to them through Pastor Gendre Stratum, which gives the pastor so much control that he can get them to betray their parents, hand over their businesses, and marry his ex-wife. Do you realize how deep that is? I don't know how we can create laws in South Africa to prevent this kind of exploitation from happening in future, but surely something must be done. Hopefully, some smart lawyers watching this show have some bright ideas.